All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our monthly Entrepreneur Ecosystem Coffee Break. My name is Carol Spicer, and I'm the owner of Spicer Facilitation. I'm very pleased to welcome you. Today is June 28th, 2023. After a long, cold, dreary spring, we are in a heat warning today on the West Coast and in some parts of the province as well. So I guess summer perhaps has arrived. So I want to welcome everyone for joining us. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the beautiful community of Pasadena, which is in the unceded territory of the ancient Beothuk. And I ask that you think about where you're joining us from today and join me in acknowledging with respect the diverse cultures and traditions of all Indigenous people in our country, and those especially in our province, the Mi'kmaq, the Beothuk, the Inuit, Innu, and Southern Labrador Inuit. I'm asking folks in chat if you want to say a quick hello and welcome. For those that haven't done so yet, feel free to type over in chat. And I'm always curious where everyone's joining us from. We've got BJ, who is Newfoundlander in heart and work, and is now joining us from my hometown. Thanks for joining us today, BJ. It's earlier in the morning for you.
Smokebound Toronto.
There you go.
Safe to go outdoors by Friday, maybe. Very inspiring.
Okay. There you go. Awesome. So for those that aren't familiar with the Entrepreneur Coffee Break, because we do have a few new folks joining us today, and I'm really excited to see that. This is a community. It's your community. It's an opportunity to really share, network, get to know people in the region. And so I'll do a quick rundown of introductions in a moment. It's something that I started as a way to bring people together that don't always get a chance to run into Corner Brook and have a coffee. So not to discount the in-person coffee breaks that are happening. Certainly, I enjoy those as well. My family will always tell you that I don't drink coffee, but I go for coffee a lot. So they make fun of me all the time for that. And sometimes they ask me, what do you drink? And I said, well, usually it's milk in the summer and hot chocolate in the winter. So that's where my or if it's later in the day, it's probably my Coca-Cola. But I just find that, especially for those that have bricks and mortar business that don't always get a chance to step away from the business, or I look at Edwina, who's down in Port aux Basques and just can't pop up. It's not going to drive 2.5 hours for a 40-minute coffee break. But it gives an opportunity for everyone to connect. So that's what this is about. When I started my business, I knew how to do my function, I guess, or my facilitating and all that. I didn't know there was such a thing as an entrepreneur ecosystem. And it's something that I've learned is so valuable, and it's so, I'll say, heartwarming to know how many people want you to succeed as an entrepreneur. And whether it's a cheerleader on the sidelines, whether it's someone with funding, whether it's someone who can give you some knowledge, embrace it and just be a part of it. I just love being part of this whole ecosystem that's going on. BJ and I had connected virtually several times, but we actually got to meet at the NLO conference in person earlier this year. So it's when you start to run into different people in different areas, and it's a lot of fun. So welcome. So that's kind of what the coffee break is about. I do want to acknowledge that Brennan's here from Navigate. Navigate helped get us started as a pilot back in January 2020. We said, let's run a pilot for 3 months. That took us to March 2020. We all know what happened in March, so we continued. And now we've been running this in our 4th year of a monthly virtual coffee break. And so I'm really proud to keep it going. So Navigate was a main sponsor for the first couple of years, and now we are actually working out to other organizations to help with that. And I want to thank Tammy and her team at Deer Lake Regional Airport Authority. They're our sponsor for this month, and Tammy's also going to be our guest speaker. So I'll get her to chat about that in just a moment. So Tammy, for your benefit, I'm going to run down and ask folks to do a bit of an introduction, just to kind of let you know who's on the line with us today, so that when you're making your presentation to us, then you kind of know what your audience is. So I'm going to go alphabetically from the top. So Andrea, you're up, and then it will be BJ.
What do I got to do?
Just introduce yourself. Tell folks who you are and where you are.
I'm reporting from Pasadena. I'm the new owner of Gifts of Joy here in Pasadena, and yeah, that's it.
And Andrea and I were chatting yesterday. We're interested in the tourism side of things, Tammy, getting people into the community. So that's of interest for sure. BJ, and then I'm gonna jump down to Edwina.
Okay. Hi, I'm BJ Danilchuk. I'm the artisan owner of Island Wood Turning over on the other side of the island in the Trinity Bight area in Champies West. And you're probably going like, so why is a wood turner signing up for this conversation? It's because I'm also a golfer. And I have to tell you, as I was dithering yesterday about whether I should sign up for this or not or whatever, 3 times I had conversations with people about how they really wanted, they didn't realize how big Newfoundland was, and they really wanted to golf on the West Coast. And I said, well, then you need to fly into Deer Lake, and then you need to get out, and that's what you need to do, and all those courses on that side. And for just let's say Jones will be there later, and so I thought, if I'm having that conversation, I want to understand your strategy, because I seem to be a mouthy person, at least to golfers. And so and my background is, I find understanding the strategy of businesses makes it really way easier to align and support them. And so it's important that there's an airport that's functional in that corner of the province. So that's why.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, BJ. Edwina and then Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. Edwina Bateman. I am the owner operator of Avail Training Solutions, HR services, I should say. From Portabass, and like Carol, I'm a solopreneur, enjoying my job, and I enjoy working with the Deer Lake personnel. I've done quite a bit of training with them, and I must say it's always a pleasure. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the presentation today from Tammy and her team. And nice to meet everyone. Some familiar faces. Looking forward to the next hour. Thanks, Carol.
Excellent. Thanks, Edwina. Kelly and then Linda.
Hi, I'm Kelly Lannon. Currently, I work with Oceans Advance in the Ocean Career Immersion Program on a 12-week contract, but my side hustle is I'm in the process of opening my own marketing and communications event planning business here on the West Coast. Like BJ, I am a golfer. And yes, we have beautiful courses here on the West Coast, no doubt. I started 3 years ago, and last year I broke my ankle in June, so didn't get to golf last summer. I'm back at it again this year, and it's something I'm really enjoying. But yeah, new to the entrepreneurial side. In this stream, in the marketing stream, I did run my own business in Nova Scotia and early when we first moved to Newfoundland. So not new to being an entrepreneur, but just new to the marketing side of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. Linda and then Liz. Linda may not have access. So Linda's with the Study and Stay program, NL. She works with international students to encourage them to stay in the province, and I'm a mentor with their program. It's a great program, getting international students in their last year of study to get them skilled up to try and stay in Newfoundland, Labrador. And some of them become entrepreneurs, and some of them go on to work with other organizations, depending on their research that they've been doing as graduate students and so on. So that's Linda, and she's in Quarterbark. Liz, I'll go to you, and then Brennan.
Hi, I'm Liz Comden. I own Sea Salt and Twig. We create wildcraft, manufacture skincare and jewelry with as much natural Newfoundland ingredients as we possibly can. I'm located in Cormac, which is just north of Deer Lake, for anyone who doesn't know this area. And yeah, this year we are heavily into wholesaling and retailing, retail locations across the island, Nova Scotia and Boston. And yeah, so I'm fitting this in between working on orders today.
You're multi-talented there, Ms. Liz. You can feel free to keep your camera off and work away in the background.
I will. Thanks.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. Brennan, you're up next.
Hi, folks. I'm Brennan Lowry. I'm with Navigate Entrepreneurship Center. So we are a entrepreneurship support center that serves folks on the West Coast, anyone who wants to start a business of any kind or has a startup. So as Carol said, Navigate has worked with Spicer Facilitation and still continues to. And we are happy to support, any aspiring entrepreneurs working in any sector. So it's great to hear from some folks on the West Coast and others right across the island.
Awesome. Excellent. And if you haven't been down to the Center for Research and Innovation in Corner Brook, it's across from the mill. It's a beautifully redone building. And it's a nice place to connect. They've got a common working space if you need to pop in for a minute and all kinds of stuff there. Awesome. I know Maria's got some stuff happening in the background, noise going on in her place. She did mention in chat, she is the owner of User Friendly Website Design. She's a web developer extraordinaire out of Corner Brook. Maria was one of our first international guests. She joined us from England when she was getting ready to move back home to Newfoundland and Labrador. So when Allison and I were doing it a couple of years ago, we were always excited because we said, oh, we've gone international because we had Maria join us from England before she moved home. So welcome, Maria. Thanks for popping in today. Samantha, I'm going to go to you, and then Tammy, I'll go to you and your team.
Awesome. I'm Samantha O'Brien. I'm with Atlantic Edge Credit Union. I'm actually the manager of commercial services here. So I help a lot of entrepreneurs with regards to funding. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of join another coffee break and get to talk to some amazing people.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. She also sponsored our in-person one that we did during Carnival last year. So that was earlier this year. So that was a lot of fun. All right, Tammy, I know you're up next if David wants to start getting your presentation up, but if you want to introduce yourself and your team, you've got a bunch of folks there with you, I believe.
Okay, just give me a sec. So I will, I'll introduce my team, and I just want to say thank you so much, Carol, for inviting me to present today. It's fantastic to see so many people online and from across the province. So fantastic. I really appreciate you giving of your time, and I hope that I'm able to share some information that you are able to take away. You learn something new today from the presentation. Before I get going, I will just acknowledge my team that's signing in today. So we have David Ball, Patty Parsons, Debbie Chalk, and Diane Waldron. I think that's most everyone who's online for the coffee break. And I'm going to share I think this will work. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
So just start the slideshow version.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Perfect. Okay. We got two screens here, so I'm going to try and pay attention to my laptop so that you can actually see my face and the presentation and not be distracted.
Okay.
So the aviation industry is growing, certainly, and very resilient. So just to give you some data on that. So in 2023, there were 35 million takeoffs that were scheduled passenger service. The aviation industry contributes 3.6% to the global GDP. And to give you a comparison, in 2019, that would have been similar to Switzerland's GDP as a country. And we move 35% of global value of goods and services, and we support 333 million global jobs in the tourism sector, which is actually 1/10 of the global employment. So that gives you perspective on how important the aviation industry is globally. So in terms of, how all that works and just listening to everyone, give their introductions, I was thinking, my goodness, I've worked with this person or I've worked with that person. And as a small airport, our impact is far reaching. And I think, Carol, kudos to you for having this coffee break, because I really do think that there's strength in numbers and there's something that we can all learn from each other. And so I think it's a great opportunity for networking and connecting. And so really, air travel is definitely an economic engine. And, we have airlines, we have airports, we have community stakeholders that all contribute to air travel. And then that feeds the system of tourism and trade, infrastructure demand, finance and investment, economic expansion, growing affluence. So, we're very important to kind of drive that engine forward. To give you an idea of what's happening across Canada, this slide just gives you our 2023 third quarter projections in comparison to the same time in 2019. And I'll be really glad when we can stop going back to that pre-COVID era. But unfortunately, at this point, it still continues to be our benchmark. So you can see, Newfoundland and Labrador is lagging behind where we were in 2019. So we're at 86.4% of our 2019 levels in terms of seat capacity coming into the province. But Atlantic Canada as a whole is, other than PEI, which you see up here, Atlantic Canada as a whole is lagging behind the rest of Canada in recovery, with the average for the entire country being 96.1. So, we are improving, but it is a challenge for sure. So Deer Lake Airport, you see where we're located, the YDF here. And so, we are Western Newfoundland's airport, and our catchment area is about 124,000. And I think it's important to note that for us, while we have a population of 124,000, we actually bring in about 3 times that in passengers annually pre-COVID. So this slide gives you an idea of our passenger recovery. And so in 2019, we saw about 325,000 passengers go through our airport. In 2022, we had 82% of 2019 at 238,000. So you see the check mark, we're starting to reach recovery. But, here and within the team, our goal is obviously, yes, we want to get back to pre-COVID levels in terms of 2019, but in 2016 was probably our best year. And that's our goal, that's our aim, and we're working towards that. And hope to achieve that in the next few years. So we are expecting in 2023 that we'll be close to 90% of passenger traffic in 2019. So just down by 10%. Again, that's really really good for us here. And I think in comparison to some other small airports, we are certainly performing well. Obviously, we want to get back to 2016 and 2019 levels, but certainly in comparison to others at this point in time, we're doing well. Aircraft movement. So just to give you an understanding of what this figure tells you, aircraft movements are all aircraft that land at our airport. So that would be private aircraft, commercial aircraft, government aircraft, spray planes, water bombers, air ambulance, any kind of aircraft that will be flying into the airport. So in 2022, we had 84% of our 2019 levels, at 12,887 movements in 2022. Sorry, the top of that graph, it wasn't updated. And so just to give you again, a comparison to the rest of Atlantic Canada, this slide just shows you, where we are. Deer Lake is in red. Fredericton would be in the teal color. Charlottetown would be green. So, pre-COVID, we were probably in about, third place in terms of our passenger traffic. And then in 2022, again, really close there with Fredericton, but Charlottetown leading Atlantic Canada in terms of our numbers. Carol, I'm assuming we'll just take questions at the end. So, we are seeing a strong passenger recovery. This gives you a slide of, where we are going back as far as April 2019. Obviously, one of the challenges, and those of you that are involved in the tourism sector would know that, we are challenged in the shoulder season to have a lot of traffic moving through. And so we really want to work on that so that we can start to flatten out this graph a bit. So you can see, our peak times of year, June, July, August. But then, we see things drop off in the fall and in the spring. So in May of 2023, we saw 89% of our passenger traffic recovered. And so, that is, again, we're, I think, leading the pack in terms of our recovery. So this gives you an idea of the market share and the capacity coming in. So currently for this upcoming year, we have Air Canada, PAL, have always been strong supporters and strong presence in Deer Lake. We also have Swoop and Flair, and of course Sunwing return this year. We did not have WestJet return this summer, so you would see the pretty green color in the past would have been the market share that was in relation to WestJet. Now I'm going to turn my pages to catch up to myself. So Deer Lake Airport is vital to economic activity in our region. 150 to 200 full-time equivalent jobs at YDF, $10 million in infrastructure investment in 2022 through our facilities, and obviously lots of community development. So if you look at just, in the region, the new hospital that's happening, resource mining development, residential growth, there's a lot of potential opportunity happening in the business sector, not to even touch on the growth that's happening in tourism. So each flight does have a significant economic impact, from directly to the airport and airport related business, but then indirect in terms of supplying and supporting businesses and industry and development, and then other pieces in terms of induced benefits for employees who are spending in the economy because they're able to generate an income through business growth. And we certainly would not want to forget about all of the great infrastructure and supports that happen in the region that are supporting the airport and driving the demand for travel. Obviously, having Memorial University's Grenfell campus located here, we know there's strong growth in international students. The College of North Atlantic, I was talking to someone recently, and they have a very strong growth plan in terms of international students as well, and then students that are traveling in from outside of the province. All of that helps to support and grow the demand for air travel. Rosemorne is, I think, #1 destination right now in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's on a lot of people's bucket list, and it's just 20 minutes from the airport. And certainly we know that that is, that brings a lot of people to the region, but once they get here, they discover there's a lot more to see and experience. And so that's fantastic as well. And then there's Lansing Meadows and Red Bay. So YDF is one of the few airports in the world that you can actually fly in and experience 3 World UNESCO sites in relative close proximity. And then, of course, Marble Mountain, and we can talk lots about that and the potential that's there in terms of the long season last year, and then really working to promote, when I talked about that shoulder season, I think Marble Mountain and our winter tourism offering is key to our growth in the winter season. So just to give you a little bit of information about YDF, we do have 5 on-site car rental agencies, a shuttle service to Corner Brook and Pasadena. We have one of the largest long-term parking areas in Atlantic Canada, 100 short-term parking spaces. Our runway is 8,005 feet, and we did do a runway resurfacing in 2021, which was a big undertaking for us, and really pleased with the outcome there. We have 24-hour NAV Canada flight services. Canada Border Service Agency is on site, ground handling, refueling. We are a Category 7 emergency response service, and we have 2 pre-board screening lanes. To give you a little bit of background on our financial recovery. So in 2021, 2022, our revenue was 4.5 million. That increased from 2.8 million in 2020, 2021, which was actually a 62% increase. Our expenses in 2021, 2022 increased from 4.3 million in 2021, 2022. And that really was a lot in relation to inflation, fuel costs that we're all experiencing and impacted by, increased costs in terms of parts and materials, and supply chain challenges. So we ended our year of 2022 with an operating deficit of 550,000, which was actually $1 million improved compared to the previous year. So things are improving, not back to where we were pre-COVID for sure, but we're on the right track. And capital expenditures, this kind of just shows you from 2016 what we've invested in capital here at the airport, and obviously that supports a lot of local business. And 2021 was a big increase because of the runway. And I certainly don't want to forget to acknowledge the support that we've received from our partners and Sense of Arrival project. So if you've visited the airport, you would have noticed there's been a lot of upgrades in our terminal as well as outside the terminal. And that is part of our Sense of Arrival project that we did receive funding from the province as well as ACOA. And then we also received air access funding in 2022, 2023 for $250,000. So if we only had a crystal ball and we would know what's going to happen. But we do know a little bit from some of the experts that are looking at what's happened coming out of COVID and what we can expect for the next few years. And I'm sure there will be some questions about all of this. You're hearing lots in the media now, or you've probably experienced a different experience when you're traveling in terms of having delays or cancellations of flights. So I'll certainly try and give you some idea of, why that's happening and how long we can expect it to go on. So we know that it's going to take 4 to 5 years for air travel in North America to return to pre-pandemic levels. We're expecting that to be now by 2025, 2026. The entire industry has changed. It is extremely competitive, and there is a big push to provide quality service for reasonable prices. Our geography, of course, relies on air travel for connectivity, and Atlantic Canada is recovering at a slower rate, as I indicated before. And when the aviation sector struggles, it's felt in small communities like ours first and for longer than most places. And certainly as demand returns, we want to be competitive. There is a limited number of aircraft, there's a limited number of crew, and airlines are looking to see where do we put that aircraft, where do we put those crew, so that we can have the greatest yields. And so it's an extremely competitive market right now, and there's been a lot of new entrants with the ultra low cost carriers coming in. So you would have heard, obviously we have Flair, we have Swoop, lots of changes happening there, but you would have heard of other airlines such as Lynx that are flying into St. John's. Jet Lines is a new company. So lots of new entrants in the market, and everyone's watching to see how this is all going to unfold. So for 2023, we are going to see our seat capacity close to 2019. We have strong partnerships with tourism, and certainly tourism is growing in the province and in our region. We are working collaboratively to develop the shoulder season and what's offered in that period so that we can try and increase demand for travel. Economic and business development in the region relies on effective air service. It comes up almost everywhere. I think every day I hear someone being interviewed in the tourism or business sector, and they are certainly advocating for improvements in air access. WestJet did not return to our airport this summer, and certainly that's creating challenges domestically and internationally in connecting Eastern Canada with Western Canada. And it's not just, Deer Lake that was impacted by that. That was certainly a strategic decision by that airline to focus more on Western Canada and less on Eastern. And that's created a lot of challenges for people to travel across the country. You've heard, I'm sure, about the pilot and crew shortages and how that's impacting our operations, and then ongoing challenges in hub airports. And when I say hub, I mean Montreal, Toronto, those are the hub airports, Halifax to some extent, that we feed into. And so if they're experiencing challenges, although we might be fully staffed here and may not have any issues with baggage or ground handling, it's an entire ecosystem, and one thing that happens in Kelowna, BC can impact us here in Deer Lake. And then, of course, the rising cost of doing business would be impacting us. So we do have a strategic plan for 2022, 2024. I can't believe we're actually in our, third year now of our plan. And we are working on 4 goals, which includes maximizing business development, delivering exceptional passenger experience, expanding our partnerships, and strengthening our organization. And achievement of those goals will help us reach our vision of being a leading regional airport in Canada, maximizing our connections, opportunities, travel journeys for people, businesses, and communities we serve. So we're well on our way. There's a lot happening. Our teams worked really hard to, chip away at those strategic goals, and we will be starting a new strategic plan next year with the board. And this was a great celebration that we had last year when we saw the first Flare aircraft land at YDF, and certainly took a lot of us working together to achieve that. And this just kind of highlights lots of pieces of our puzzle, a lot of the things that goes on here at the airport. So challenges, because how boring would life be if we didn't have lots of challenges? So we certainly have our share of those here. So our capacity, as I said, is slow to rebound, despite there's a high demand. So, it's a simple supply and demand. When you don't have the supply there and you have limited amount of capacity coming into the region, and there's a lot of people that want to get here, then the cost increases. So we know cost to travel is very challenging. WestJet, as I said, stopped service. Flare reduced from providing 6 months in 2022 of service to 2 months because of some of the challenges they were facing. As I said earlier, cost is increasing, increasing regulatory requirements, potential new legislation, all of those things impact our operations, competition amongst airports for air service, changes in our the transportation landscape, labor shortages, on and on it goes, in terms of, the things that are contributing to some of the challenges that we're dealing with here. We are continuing to work with Swoop and Flare. Obviously, we know that there's an announcement by WestJet that Swoop is going to be kind of taken in under that that umbrella. So not sure how all that's going to play out. There's new airline partnerships that are being explored. Things we're looking at for Western and Eastern Canada for summer of 2024, and supporting our existing carriers. So there's lots happening, lots of moving parts. But what we do know is that aviation is a vital economic engine, as I said. 2023, 2024, there's still aftershocks, there's still demand outpacing supply. There's still lots of challenges in terms of crew, aircraft, staffing, and as I said, it's very competitive. So sharing the risk when we go to bring in new airlines is important to us, and sharing that across our partners. And that's it. So happy to take questions. I know that was a lot of information, but
That's awesome.
yeah,
If you
oh,
want to click stop sharing, and
yeah,
then
I'm gonna do that there. Okay.
perfect.
Wonderful.
And then we can open it up to questions. So if you could use the raise hand, just up at the top, you've got the icons if you have any questions, or if that's not working for you, you can pop a question in chat and I'll monitor that as well. But if anyone has any questions or comments for Tammy, please feel free to raise your hand. Edwina.
Actually, I got two questions. Tammy, I'm back to that very first slide. I'm curious about the figure 35 million takeoffs.
Yeah.
Are you referring to 35 million from the Deer Lake Airport?
No. That's
Oh.
globally. That's in the world.
That's
35.
overwhelming. Where did
I
that-
wish. Oh my goodness, we need a much bigger airport, but no, that's globally. So that first slide was really talking about the aviation industry globally and the impact that it has. And that 35 million is just passenger scheduled service. That's not cargo. That's not military. That's just commercial in the entire world globally.
Okay, I took it to be airport and it was a typo.
Oh.
That was my first thought there. I said, I better bring that up because that's obviously something wrong with that figure. Anyway,
Yeah,
would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. The other question, if I can ask too in this initial segment, I'm just curious about, is there a mechanism in place where you can gauge your passengers from your surrounding communities? Like, for instance, when I travel, is there a way to gauge your outlying community support?
Yeah, we don't have access to that, Edwina, because we just get raw data, right? So we just get, number of passengers that went through our airport, whether they arrived or departed. And that information will be with the airline, and the airlines are very reluctant to give us that information. We can get data that tells us where people go once they leave Deer Lake or where they're coming from. So what airport you might be flying to. So we would be able to look and see, what is the portion of our passengers each day that will be traveling to airports in Western Canada. But I can't say that, a third of those people were traveling from Port Bass or from St. Anthony. Most of that we get is really kind of anecdotal.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just thinking like that probably would be helpful information if you were to gauge where people were coming from and what areas and were supporting the airport, and maybe where you might need to focus some more partnerships in terms of how many people are traveling from the outlying areas. But okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Have you
Thank
thought,
you for your
Tammy?
question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Have you thought, Tammy, about doing some having folks polling in the station, like in I
Yeah,
know, I think Halifax used to have, I think they had the folks with the tartan, right, that would go around and ask
Yeah.
questions and.
Yeah, and actually the province is doing that right now. So the province does do some departure questioning, like questionnaire surveys, and I know they're doing it now because I was traveling last week for business and I was surveyed. And so they do get some of that information, but I'm not sure if they're asking what community are you coming from. But that might be something that we could ask them to do. In order to get us a snapshot of a moment in time of where people are traveling from. I mean, we have had last year when we launched Swoop and Flare, just because I was down in the terminal and meeting people, we heard from people that traveled all the way from Conception Bay in order to fly on Swoop. So I think that tells us a lot in terms of, the cost benefit of people traveling across the island, because the flights were very competitive in terms of pricing. But it is very good information for us to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just seeing BJ nodding her head as she traverses the island to leave the province, right? Kelly.
So my question is, are a majority of the flights into and out of Deer Lake early morning, late night, as compared to midday? Because I know a lot of doing the marketing side of, I've just come through 2 years of school, and the marketing side, what I'm hearing is people are saying, oh well, I would travel, but we're going to hit a moose, because moose is like, that's the terrible thing that when you hear the island. So when you're landing early morning, you're landing late night, or traveling, is that have an impact on travel?
Mm-hmm. So, so a couple things, lots there. So in terms of our flight schedule, right now in the summer, we do have increased frequency of aircraft, obviously, because the demand is high, right? So, we have early morning flight to Toronto, but we also have a midday flight to Toronto. We have larger aircraft on. We have for Flair and Swoop, their flight schedule is midday. The issue with our flights coming in, leaving early in the morning and late at night, there's a lot of people that rely on that in order to connect onward. So if you talk to a rotational worker, they want to have the flight early in the morning because it means that they're able to get to Fort McMurray in order to start their shift the next day. We don't control the flight schedule. Obviously, we meet and have continued conversations with airlines about the schedule, but they are also looking at where are these people going. So, there's a lot of, right now we have 2 flights a day in Halifax, one that leaves at 8:45 and one that leaves later in the afternoon. But we know that a lot of people are going through Halifax and connecting onward. So it's not an end destination for many of the people that are leaving. So in order for that to work, because we don't want people to have to overnight anywhere, which we did deal with through COVID, in order to be able to connect to go wherever they're going in the world. So it's a double-edged sword. It does mean that people are on the road early, and we know that that can be challenging. But to be honest, rarely do we hear a lot of complaints about it because people want to get the connection to get to wherever they're going in the world. And that's pretty standard for many of Eastern Canada airports.
Yeah, I could see that being
Yeah,
on one
go ahead.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a client in Ontario that was flying me up to Montreal, and it was a federal government department. So we were trying to get the contract done. And I said to them on Friday afternoon, I'm not booking a flight because it's non-refundable. I'm not booking a flight till I have the contract. But you have to get me this contract now, because if you tell me Monday morning, I will have missed every flight out of here to get to Montreal for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yeah.
and unfortunately for us, the contract officer was in Edmonton, so we picked up a couple hours of time.
Mm-hmm.
So 9:30 at night, Friday night, I got the contract. I booked the Air Canada flight and went on the 5 a.m. flight out of Monday morning. Right.
Mhm.
But like they couldn't understand that we can't tell you first thing Monday. No, I will have missed every flight out.
Mhm.
This was in
Yeah,
February, so you
in
didn't
the
have the
larger-
summer flights, it was,
Right.
that was it, right?
Yeah. And in larger centers, obviously bigger demand, there's more flights, there's more frequency. But we are Newfoundland's second busiest airport. And even throughout COVID, we were the only airport in Newfoundland that maintained that direct Toronto flight. And that really was because of the strong presence we have in our region for rotational workers. And so, that certainly plays into it. Like I said, the airlines have the data of where people are going, and they're really trying to make sure that people can make connections to get to their end destination. And so, sometimes that makes it challenging for those of us that are just wanting to go to Toronto, and that's the end of our trip. But most of the people that are traveling through Deer Lake are going onward from those hub airports.
Yeah. Okay. Not a problem. Bonjour, Andrew. Andrew just popped in. He's with Horizon TNL out in Stephenville area. Welcome.
Hi, Andrew.
Bonjour. Hi.
Tammy just
I
finished her presentation, Andrew. We're just asking a couple questions from that. So
okay, no problem. Yeah, I'm in a full day workshop, but I just wanted to pop on during the lunch break and make an appearance and say hi to everybody.
awesome. Thank you. Andrew and I actually had lunch recently at the Stephenville Airport. There's a fabulous restaurant in the Stephenville Airport. The airport wasn't open, but the restaurant and the lady that runs the restaurant is worth the entertainment. If you're ever in the Stephenville area, she was giving Andrew a hard time the whole time we were there. But it was awesome
Excellent.
food too.
Awesome.
She's awesome. Tammy, one of the things that I picked up at your AGM, and the reason I asked you here, and it's not something I sort of heard you touch on in your presentation, but at the AGM, you had mentioned that as a business community, we can help support you in attracting air development. So
Mhm.
what is it you need because that was what really struck me. It wasn't, yes, the airport is important to the region. However, we're almost more important to you in some ways. So do you want to expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so there's there's lots that we can do for each other. So in
Mhm.
order for me to be able to sit down to airlines and have the conversation around what's happening, so you may be working on something, you may have a particular need, you may know that you're going to be bringing in a new service, and that's going to drive the demand for employment, whatever. Your business may be growing, or there's something that's happening that's impacting you as a business owner. Sharing that is really important for me, because when I sit down to the airlines and I have the conversations around what is happening in our community from an economic perspective that's going to increase or drive demand, airlines are planning the schedule for next winter right now. Like, that schedule is being finalized now. So if there's anything that's going on, it's really important for me to have that information. The other piece is around, if you're impacted by air access, which we all are. I mean, it's about business, it's about tourism and quality of life, but it's also about, on the West Coast for us, our airport plays a big role in terms of our health services and the extension of the emergency health response. So any of those things that you're concerned about, raising it up and having that discussion. Obviously, people expect me to be out promoting the airport, but they might be surprised when they're having a conversation with Carol, that she raises how air access is impacting her business development, or her ability to get to Toronto or get to Goose Bay in order to be able to facilitate a session. So having every opportunity that you have to support us and raise the concerns. If you have concerns around air access, please do that. And I think that we're asking that of the business community, and I'm certainly seeing that. So it's coming up in lots of conversations around why air access is so important to business development and our economy. And if we don't have good air access, our economy is going to be stifled, and we're not able to compete with other regions of the country and around the world. So, by all means, certainly, I would encourage that. And if there's anything that you want to share with me, if you have a question, I got a question today from an accommodator about car rentals and, what's happening. And if I don't know what is being experienced out in the community, then I can't do anything about it. So once I heard what was going on, I went back to the car rental agency to get clarification so that I can go back and help inform them and make sure that the things that we have in place here at the airport are meeting the needs of the business community.
Mhm. Awesome. Tammy, is there a lot of cargo that goes through? I'm thinking, Liz, you mentioned Boston, and I'm going to make an assumption, but I would assume, Liz, that you need to ship product. Is there a lot of cargo demand, or is that something that would help you know that information, Tammy?
Yeah, so there is some cargo that goes through. We actually have, I think, 2 flights a day that are strictly cargo, and that would often be, through couriers. So like would be Purelate or Midland, that kind of thing. And then, sometimes on PAL Airlines, they will be shipping cargo throughout the province or outside the province, and Air Canada as well. But we don't have, aircraft that are strictly, other than the 2 EVIS flights a day, which are smaller aircraft. We don't have what you might picture in terms of large, like FedEx aircraft that will be landing here. It is something that we are exploring as opportunity. but we would need to have a better understanding of what the need would be from an export perspective, to be able to move that forward.
Liz, was there anything you wanted to add to that? I made a big assumption on your behalf.
No, that's okay. Well, I mean, I think that export in general for small businesses is a very, very difficult aspect. It's extremely expensive, and there's very limited options. Like I'm in Cormac. Like for me to ship, I have to drive 20 minutes to Deer Lake just to ship a package out. Just with Canada Post, if I want to ship a courier package, I have to drive an hour to Corner Brook to drop it off because there's nowhere around here that I can ship courier. So my options are extremely limited, which really that's been a barrier for export, because that's usually the first question that comes up. Well, what's it going to cost me to ship your product to my store?
Yeah.
Liz, I did take a lot of your soap actually when I did Roots America, which was meeting with airlines. I say it's like speed dating with airlines. So you have your slate of airlines that you get to meet with, and you have a period of time that you get to speak to them. And so one of the gifts that I had taken was the soap, and it was fantastic. Everyone really appreciated it, and it just really looked great, and it made
Awesome.
my suitcase smell wonderful.
Awesome, thanks.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
That's actually maybe related to a question. I've noticed at the airport there's work by the artist, I think Marcus Goss, like a local Mi'kmaq artist.
Mhm.
Has the airport authority, like, are you guys thinking about other, I guess local businesses that you guys could promote somehow in terms of carrying their products, or, I don't know if there's room for additional kind of cafe space at some point in time, but anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm looking across the table at David and Patty, because obviously space is at a premium right now for us, and we are growing our space. But we do have partnerships with our current providers. So, for example, Robbins, we kind of facilitated a meeting between the owner of the coffee shop and some local breweries, so that we could have local craft beer offered on their menu. So they do offer right now Boomstick products, and I think there may be a couple more that they're offering there. And then in our gift shop as well, whenever anyone comes forward, so I think there's been a few, like Grossmore Coffee, for example, you can buy that in our gift shop. So those spaces are leased and they're operated by a local business, and we just kind of connect and facilitate that. In terms of the artwork, yes, we do have a really positive partnership with the Halibu and Experience Halibu. And so that's how the artwork by Marcus Goss came to be and is showcased. We also have, and a lot of people haven't noticed it, but I think it's probably one of the nicest art offerings that we have in the airport. But we have Irv Manuel's big piece of artwork that she did. It's been there since the airport was the expansion was done, I believe. So yeah, we're always looking for opportunities for partnership. The challenge that we are dealing with is space, and so, we're working on that. But yeah, definitely, we are about supporting local business, partnering, and seeing how we can all kind of grow together. And it is a big part of the sense of arrival. So it's not just about walking in and know that you're in Newfoundland and have that experience happen right as soon as the plane touches down. But it is also about showcasing our art and allowing people to be able to purchase products and take it back with them or have it while they're here.
Awesome. Excellent. Great question. BJ.
Hi. I have two questions. Hi, and thank you. It was a great presentation. One, I know there's lots of potential opportunities, but I just want to validate an assumption I have, which is if you had like 8 opportunities to choose from, the one that would always attract you the most is get another plane landing at your airport, get another contract with an airline coming in, right? I mean, you could do all the other ones, but it wouldn't give you the same kind of economic drive as that first, right? Am I getting that?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
mean, obviously, when airport authorities were established, so when Transport Canada divested airports, we have a mandate, and the mandate is to grow air service. So yes, that's a priority. And then the other piece is economic development. And then we also have responsibility to develop our land and grow business in that way. But it all has to come back to, air service, right? So we're not going to open up a factory to make jelly beans because while that might make us lots of money, it doesn't align with the mandate of the airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that I know that sometimes businesses, you have a finite amount of manpower and resources, and it's like, hi, out of the opportunities, which gives us the best return, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm getting that.
Absolutely.
And so then that leads to my second question, which is about WestJet, or maybe it's more my observation and not something that you can necessarily comment as bluntly as I am just about to. My observation is that it was an amazing strategy that WestJet just happened to decide to withdraw all of the air support from the eastern side of Canada, while Air Canada magically at the same time pulled most of their planes out of Alberta. I mean, you still can get to Calgary and Edmonton, but way reduced, all those kinds of things. And then magically all of their prices just skyrocketed because, there isn't as many seats coming in. When I look at your numbers, the graph of, the portion that came from the various airlines, and then if I take what WestJet was doing in 2019 and move it over to 2022, radically changes the performance for the airport authority as well. And so I'm just, as a consumer, I'm sitting here waiting for somebody to file a complaint with the Competition Bureau about this obvious fix in, sort of like what happened with the bread people that just got dealt with this week. And things happen. So just so you know, there's lots of conversation among passengers that are frequent flyers about this. I'm just wondering, is there any conversation among the airport authorities that are suffering from this? Because the ones in the east are suffering and the ones in the west are suffering too.
So I guess, yeah, interesting things are happening in the market right now. What we saw last year, we saw the introduction of Swoop, which was a ULC like airline that was owned and operated really by WestJet. We had 4 flights last year with them, so it was 2 to Hamilton, 2 to Toronto, and we had, give or take, because last summer there was lots of things that happened. But for the most part, we had at least a daily flight to Toronto on WestJet. So we did see some of that replaced with Swoop this year, but certainly not fully replaced. And while WestJet made that decision to kind of go back to their roots in Western Canada, what they had communicated to us is that it was a pause. And so we're having very positive conversations with WestJet. And, as I said in the slide previously, they did come out and say that they're going to kind of dissolve Swoop and have it as part of WestJet. We're still waiting to see how that's going to unfold and what that looks like. And, Air Canada has always been really strong in Eastern Canada and have been a great partner for us. And really without them in COVID, I don't know where we would have been, because it certainly helped essential travel into the rest of Canada and around the world. So yeah, I guess my response is that there's, coming out of COVID, airlines are really going back and looking at how do we utilize the aircraft we have, the limited aircraft, the limited crew we have, to make the most money. And overlaying all of that, you have airports vying for that service, and some airports have deeper pockets than others. And really, that's what it's about. It's about sharing the risk. And we had a presentation at our AGM where one flight from Calgary to Deer Lake, for example, may cost an airline $10 million over the year. And so for an airline to take on that risk, sometimes airports might come and provide revenue guarantees or all kinds of crazy things in order to help reduce the risk for the airline. So there's all kinds of things that are happening. It's like, someone took the airline industry, turned it on its edge and put it back. And now we're trying to all figure out where we're going to land.
Sounds pretty Wild West to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting times.
It sounds like you're right in there doing everything you can.
We're trying our best for sure.
Awesome.
Liz,
no
I think you have your hand
no
up there.
pun intended where you're going to land, right, Tammy?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Liz, you're up next.
Just kind of going back to like talking about like the artists that are, the artwork and things that are in the airport. But have you, sorry, hold on, I'm having a brain blank. Considered doing something like having a small space for local artists to even come for a day? Like this year, just for an example, we're trying to get out of doing, regular markets. It's so time consuming. But one of the things that I'm well aware of is that a lot of the story behind Sea Salt and Twig is lost when the package leaves my hands. So we've created a like meet the maker idea where there's certain days this year that I will be attending like whatever retail location has my product as a meet the maker, tell the story, talk to customers, really engage them, because when there's a human impact on a piece of something like a bar of soap, it creates that desire of community and wanting to be a part of the story. And it's just, we found that that's been like so helpful in, yes, making sales, but also, pulling our product to other parts of the world. And so that's why we've gotten into more of this, booking me as the maker into our retail spots for a day to say, come see, see the story, see some other products that we have, meet the person behind it. And it's just, it just seems to be, especially after COVID, where, we were confined for so long, it's like people are craving that interaction and humanness rather than a pretty picture on Instagram.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Liz. I love that idea. And we do, as part of the sense of arrival design, there was a space that was allocated to become a local space, but not local as in, your local pub, but a local space that we could really kind of showcase different artisans, products, music, whatever. And to be honest, it's on our list. It's part of our strategic plan in terms of us developing our airport and our partnerships to showcase local product. But really, it's been a human resources challenge. So until recently, it's only a couple of us really here that can focus on that. And as we're growing our team and we're getting things established, that is something, yes, it's absolutely in our view. And we're hoping that we'll be able to have that available. Last year, we did, with the help of some of the provincial funding for the Come Home year, we did have kind of like celebrations, an airline appreciation day for each of the airlines throughout the summer. And we did at that point showcase some local, artists in terms of music. We also had some food and beverage trials that were available. So kind of along that same line that you're talking about, not really telling the story, but just kind of showcasing it in the terminal. And so, yeah, it is definitely in our view, and something that we will be hoping that we can deliver on in the near future.
That's awesome. BJ.
Sorry, click. It just occurred to me, it's the West Coast. How, I know it's probably a bit further forward, but with all the hydrogen and wind power, and we're just going to put up so many terminals, you can barely see the hills anymore, kind of thing going on in terms of people's ideas. How much does that play in for the Deer Lake Airport as opposed to Stephenville? I assume that just there would be such huge volumes of cargo and other kinds of stuff that would need to come through that You know, you're probably
Yeah,
looking at the length of your runway and how much space you have to build storage for giant
Yeah, I mean,
things.
we are watching that closely and, you know, assessing what's happening, projects being approved, the volume, expectations around growth, and the requirements for air service. So all of that is, you know, would play into the conversations that we're having with airlines and here as a team around, you know, how do we prepare ourselves to be responsive to that and other things that are happening locally in the economy. Like I mentioned earlier, a recent conversation with CNA about, you know, the big push and the growth in international students. So they're,
Mhm.
you know, they have strong connections around the world. So how do we, you know, highlight that to let the airlines know that that will be a demand that's not tied to tourism, that's not tied to just summer season, that's going to influence, you know, throughout the year travel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a purely selfish personal question now. Do you know if PAL is looking at picking up any other routes, like going into Toronto? They go into Ottawa through Moncton.
Mhm.
Do you know if they're looking at going into Toronto or Halifax from without having to go up through Quebec to get to Halifax?
Yeah, so there's nothing that I'm aware of at this point, Carol. I mean, you may have heard about the announcement and the partnership now between PAL and Air Canada.
Mhm.
So there's a few things that are happening there. There already is an existing interline agreement where you may go on to aircanada.com and book a flight, and you can see PAL there as a portion, providing a portion of that travel.
Okay.
So that's already existing. And then there's the agreement on the Aeroplan. So you can now earn Aeroplan points on PAL flights and you can redeem Aeroplan points on PAL flights. And then the latest piece is that they have a letter of intent around capacity. So what that means is PAL will be backfilling or helping to support Air Canada in some of their routes. So you may see, it may not be that you go on PAL and purchase your ticket, it will be on Air Canada. And when you arrive here, you walk out and you're getting on a PAL flight to get to Halifax. So
Okay.
that is happening, but in terms of PAL itself announcing new routes, I haven't heard anything about that at this point. I think they have a lot happening with this new agreement with Air Canada, and you know they're certainly growing, and I think it's fantastic to see PAL as a a strong Newfoundland company. Being a part of that, and I think it bodes really well for where their relationship is evolving.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I can speak personally. My daughter's in Moncton, well, just outside of Moncton, having a direct flight from Deer Lake to Moncton without having to go through Halifax. And I also flew to Fredericton. They had direct. I mean, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, we do have PAL direct to Moncton.
Yeah,
That's I think daily right now, and then that goes on to Ottawa. I think 2 or 3 days a week.
yeah. My daughter's coming on it tomorrow night. She'll be landing.
Awesome, good, excellent. It's actually doing really well. It's very well received by the community.
Yeah, that one's a great one, and I'll be using it to go to Ottawa in the fall when I'm getting some training in Ottawa. So I'm looking forward to
Awesome.
that.
Great.
Kelly.
So I got another personal question, just like Carol had. What's happening with Sunwing?
Yeah, so Sunwing, yeah, you would have heard that in the media as well, that WestJet has purchased Sunwing and they're going to bring it in under the WestJet umbrella. We really don't know how that's going to play out. What we have been told is we shouldn't see any changes in the upcoming year. So we have Sunwing service. We had it last year and pre-COVID, obviously, to sun destinations, Cuba and Dominican. And so we are anticipating that will return and it'll still look like Sunwing. The plane will still look like Sunwing. We won't see any real changes in that probably until later in 2024.
That would be really a big loss.
Yes, yeah. And when I say changes, I just mean in terms of the branding, right?
Yes, for sure.
They still will be flying to these destinations. It's just that you might be going on a WestJet aircraft rather than a Sunwing aircraft to do that.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Tammy, for you and your team that was there supporting you, both in spirit and technology. Thank you, David, for getting her hooked up. I really appreciate you taking the time coming and joining us today. As say, it struck me at your AGM that there is a symbiotic relationship here, and that I think, certainly you getting exposed to us and us getting exposed to you can hopefully strengthen some of those opportunities to have those dialogue. So I appreciate you and your team taking the time to join us today. The recording will be posted up later, so if people want to reach out, they'll be able to see that as well. So a couple other things that are happening. Brendan's just beat me to it. He's popped in chat that there is a mentoring speed dating workshop tonight happening with Navigate. So they've got a number of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, I think, as well as some mentors that are coming. And I unfortunately have to send my regrets because I mentioned my daughter's coming in and my other daughter's getting married, and we're doing family stuff this week, so it's been a bit crazy. But certainly you can join virtually as well. So I don't know, Brendan, if you just want to add a couple more details to that.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for yeah, I just thought I'd do a shameless plug. Anyone in the area
Absolutely.
who is, either an entrepreneur or has started a business or works in support is welcome to come. And we are doing it fully hybrid. So, if you're not in the Cornbrook area, we're going to, have Zoom and stuff set up so that you can, come in virtually either to do some mentoring for some of our aspiring entrepreneurs, or if you would like to, speak to some mentors yourself. So, yeah, feel free to sign up or shoot me an email if you want some more info.
Awesome. Anything else happening for any of the others that I may not be aware of, that if you want to pop it in chat or open up your mic, if any, and it's not a shameless plug, Andrew, Brennan, that's what it's all about, is letting folks know what's on the go. Okay, so we're going to take a break over the summer for our coffee break, but we do have September's booked already, which is with Scotiabank, and this was it's a reschedule actually, because I inadvertently planned it during Easter week and nobody arrived because everybody was too busy out with their families, and rightly so. So we pushed it off till September. So on September 20th is going to be our next coffee break, and sponsored by Scotiabank. And the theme, they're going to talk to us about the SCENE program. So when we talk about collecting points and Aeroplan and all those different things, I know we're a big MasterCard with Air Miles family. I know personally it drives behavior. My husband and I, first thing we go to, are we getting points on this? On anything, whether it's Optimum, Air Miles, as long as we get something, we're more likely to go there. So I thought this would be an interesting conversation to have with Scotiabank, who are a big component of that program. So they're going to be our sponsors and guests in September. Andrea and I have talked. She's possibly going to sponsor an event later in the fall. So if anyone's interested in doing that, please feel free to connect with me. And Brendan and I have also talked about having a session together in the fall as well. And Edwina, who wasn't able to join us in May, did sponsor May, but she got pulled away doing her own business. So I do want to thank Edwina and all the others that have sponsored over the past year to keep this community going. So I do want to ask folks if you could take just about a minute or less. I'm going to launch a poll through chat, and it's just a quick evaluation. So you should see it pop up on your screen. It just helps me know that we're on the right track, or if there's something that I can do differently. If you could just take a moment to do that. That's awesome. I like when I try technology and it's working. I'm seeing votes coming in. So again, if you haven't yet done so, if you want to share any contact information in chat, any of your social media handles or anything like that, I will put them into a follow-up email that I send out to my whole network. The recording of today's session will be posted on my YouTube channel and posted to my social media as well, and shared in my newsletter for anyone that either wants to go back and take a look at anything, or for those folks that weren't able to attend today, they'll get a chance to watch the session as we went through. Tammy, fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carol. Thanks, everyone. It was fantastic. Reach out anytime. Happy to have a conversation. Love to learn more about what your business needs might be, and how we can work together.
Yeah, awesome. So on that, folks, I think unless anyone else has any other questions or comments or anything that you'd like to share, I'll give you back a little bit of your day. Stay safe during the heat alert for those of us on the west. Make sure you stay hydrated. But we're not going to complain, right? We have some warm weather for a change. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.